All right, you guys, we are going to be on page 47 of our interactive notebook. So go ahead and go to page 47 and let's write the title for our notes. This is Unit 3, and we're going to call it 3A because there's really two parts to this unit. And we're going to call it Learning Target Number 3 Notes. And we're actually going to put Part 1 because there's going to be a Part 2, but we're not going to do it today. Part 1. Okay? And these ones are what we call evaluating expressions. So we're going to evaluate expressions. Okay, remember, evaluate always means to find an answer. We need an answer. Okay? So make sure you have that title down on page 47, Unit 3A, Learning Target Number 3 Notes, Part 1. We're evaluating expressions. Okay, so let's write down our success criteria just so that we are very aware of what we need to make sure that we accomplish. Now, there are 4 success criteria, but we're just working on 2 of them, okay? Success criteria. You've written these down before, so they should be familiar to you. The third one that we're going to be working on today is know the correct order of operations. And you're going to need highlighters today, so as soon as you have a moment, make sure you pull those out. Know the correct order of operations. Okay, so that's really important. Our goal is to know something, and we have to know something about the order of operations. Okay, so, I forgot my S. You've done this already on your vocab that you did in our centers, but we'll talk a little bit more in depth about it. Okay, so know the correct order of operations. Second, not only should we know them, but we have to learn how to evaluate expressions. Okay, we have to learn how to evaluate expressions using the order of operations. So we're going to use what we know to get an answer. Okay, so we're going to evaluate expressions. We're going to get an answer using the order of operations. And that could be with or without a parentheses. Okay, so with or without a parentheses. So in this case, we need to evaluate or find an answer, evaluate expressions, right? Or find an answer using the order of operations. So we're going to learn the order of operations, and then we're going to use it to find an answer. Okay, make sure that you put a box around your success criteria, so at the end you can go back and make sure that we accomplished that. Okay, that's really important. So we have to know the correct order of operations, and we're going to use it to evaluate. Okay, so we're going to actually split our paper up into 4 boxes. Okay, just like what we've done in the past. We're going to split it here, and we're going to split it here. So use the whole paper to split this thing. Okay, let's go ahead and put our title for everything, because that's going to be important just for organization, right? For the first title is order of operations. Okay, so in fact, we're going to put order of operations. It's going to make it a little bit bigger, but I think you can see it on the screen. So that's going to be our first success criteria. All right, so I'm going to put success criteria 1. All right, that's our first one. Know the correct order of operations. So you're going to learn it right now. Okay, so success criteria number 1. And then you're going to put level 2, because I'm going to show you what our level 2 kind of problems look like. And that's going to be success criteria. Success criteria 2. Okay, so for this one right here, evaluating expressions. Okay, I'll show you how to do that. Okay, you have to learn how to evaluate, find an answer. All right, and then our level 3 notes, again, are success criteria 2. So we're going to be evaluating to find an answer, and then the same thing for our level 4. It fulfills success criteria number 2. Okay, so we have all of our success criteria accounted for now. So in the first box, you're going to learn about success criteria number 1. In the second box, you're going to learn about success criteria number 2. In the third box, success criteria number 2. And in the fourth box, success criteria number 4. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Order of operations. So the first thing you need to know, and you actually did this, you actually wrote down this vocabulary when you were doing your vocabulary centers. So let's go ahead and get started. We are going to be talking today about PEMDAS. And I want you to write this down because this is what we mean when we talk about order of operations, PEMDAS. Okay? PEMDAS. And you're going to get some highlighters and you're going to start highlighting some different things. Okay? First, I want you to highlight your P. And then use a different color and highlight your E. And then I want you to take another color and then I want you to highlight the M and D together. Okay, and if you don't have a fourth color, you can switch it up a little bit, but the last one, we need to highlight the A and S together. Okay, those are important things. All right, here we go. Let me tell you a little bit about the order of operations. First thing, the order of operations, it's the order, we're going to squish that in here, the order used to solve or to evaluate expressions. So when we're looking for an answer to evaluating expressions, this is the order we use. In fact, we're going to use this for a lot of things over the next few years, so you really need to know how to use it. Okay, so to evaluate expressions, to find an answer. Okay, this is the order you always have to go in. The first one is a parenthesis. That's the first thing you always look for. Oops, I'm already spelling it wrong. You always look for a parenthesis. If there's one, you have to solve that part or evaluate that part of the problem first. Okay, so you need to look for this. If you're evaluating expressions, the first thing you do is you look for that and figure out an answer for that piece. The second thing is an exponent. You look for an exponent like 3 to the 5th or 4 squared or 9 cubed, or whatever it might be. Okay, so if you see an exponent, that's the second thing you would do. The next ones are easy. It's multiply or divide. Okay, and for this, you always do whatever is on the left side first. Okay, that's really important, whatever's on the left side first. So make sure you write that down. I drew a little arrow to show like which way is the left-hand side. The last, I bet you could guess these, are add and subtract. Again, I highlighted them the same color because I always want you to do whatever is on the left side first. But you have to go in these order: parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, and subtract. So this order is really, really, really important. You cannot solve or evaluate expressions correctly unless you use this order. Okay? I'll show you an example right now. Now, we're not going to go and actually evaluate it, but I just wanted to give you an example of what it looks like. Okay? So say, for instance, I put down 2, and you could see times like this divided by 9, or you could see times like this, just an X, or you could even see times like this, oops, like that. You can see times multiplication several ways, okay? But let's look at this. So my order of operations says that the first thing I have to look for is parentheses. So what I automatically do when I'm solving a problem like this is I write down on the side PEMDAS so that I can check things off. Okay, so for the first thing I'm going to look for is a parentheses. Well, I don't see a parentheses. There's a multiplication. I see multiplication, I see division, and I see an exponent, but I don't see parentheses. So I'm going to put a check mark here because I don't need that one. I'm already done with it, okay? The next thing I'm looking for is an exponent. Well, I have one. That exponent is right here. Oops. That exponent is right here, 3 squared. So let's go ahead and work with that first, okay? So 3 times 3 is what 3 squared means, okay? So we're going to do that first. 3 times 3. You notice I expand it. I write it out, Okay, and 3 times 3 is 9. Now what we do is we bring everything else down to line up with it. So I have my 2 still. I have my times sign still. I have my division sign. And I have my 9. You see how I line up everything just the same as it was? Okay, so I worked with my exponent. I'm done. Now the next two that I'm going to be working with is multiply or divide. But remember these, they can kind of switch around. Whatever's on the left is what I do first. So I have multiplication and I have division. But in this case, multiplication is first. So I'm going to do that first, okay, because it's on the left-hand side. So I'm going to do 2 times 9, which is 18. Okay. So then I bring down my division sign. And I bring down my 9. So I multiplied. Now my last step is to divide. 18 divided by 9, which is 2. So I divided. So that is my answer. Make sure you circle it or put a box around it. Well, in this case, for a level 2, for a level 2, I was just showing you how to solve, but really for a level 2, all I'm going to ask you is, what is the first step? So what is the first step? Well, in this case, we didn't have any parentheses, so my first step was actually evaluating the exponent. So for a level 2, I'm just going to ask you what's the first step. But it's good for you to know all the steps so that if you need to solve it later, evaluate it later, you'll know. Okay, so in this case, my first step wasn't parentheses. My first step was finding the exponent because we didn't have any parentheses. All right, let's go on to level 3. Let's evaluate another one. Okay, so for level 3, I'm going to give you this problem right here. 6 times 2 plus 15 divided by 3. Okay, remember, the first thing I do before I do anything else is I write PEMDAS on the side. That's really important, okay? You have to have it for every level. All right, so for PEMDAS, I'm looking for parentheses. Boom, I found one right here. So that's what I'm going to work with first. So inside the parentheses, it just tells me to add 2 plus 15. Okay, I can do that. 2 plus 15 is 17. So I'm working with that. I put a 17 there. Remember, we're going to bring down multiplication. We're going to bring down the 6. And we're going to bring down the division sign. And we're going to bring down the 3. Okay, so I did the parentheses first. I'm done. I don't see any exponents. The only thing I see is multiplication and division again. So I don't have an exponent. I could actually just cross that out. So now I'm going to work with these two. Remember, whatever's on the left goes first. Again, multiplication has to be, for some reason, is first again. So we'll do it again. Okay, 17 times 6. Well, honestly, I can't do 17 times 6 in my head. So I'm going to use my calculator right here. And it's 102. So you notice how I put my little arrows so I know what I was working with? I still have my division sign, and I still have 3. So I can mark off division because that's the last thing I'm going to do. So 102 divided by 3 in my calculator gives me 34. So when I evaluate an expression, it means getting an answer. And that's my answer right there, 34. I didn't need adding, and I didn't need subtracting that time. Okay, not all on its own. I had adding within the parentheses, but that was with the parentheses, okay? All right, let's do a level 4. Let's do a level 4 and see how you guys do with it. Let's do this one. 56 divided by y cubed minus 2 times 3. And we're going to say when y equals 2. So this time we have a variable. Remember, a variable is a letter. And in this case, our letter is y. And it's telling us what that y represents. In 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, you actually learn what the y represents. All right, here we go. Let's get this party started. Okay, so the first thing I have to do is I'm going to put in that 2 for y. In fact, let me draw the arrow a little bit more over to the y. Okay, there we go. So let's do that first. So I have my 56. I have my division sign, and instead of y, I'm going to put 2 in there. So 2 to the third power minus 2 times 3. Okay, so I'm just substituting that in. That's what, remember, we called substitution, when you put something else in its place. Okay, substitution. All right, let's keep going. So now we can write PEMDAS. PEMDAS. Right? Let's do it. PEMDAS. First thing I do is I look for parentheses. I don't see any parentheses. I see division. I see an exponent. I see subtraction. I see multiplication, but I don't see any parentheses. So I'm just going to mark that out. There's no parentheses. Okay. You notice how I'm not scratching out vigorously. I'm just marking it out so that I can see I don't have any parentheses. Okay, let's look for exponents. Well, I know I have that. I have 2 to the third power. Okay, so let's go ahead and work with that. 2 to the third power. That is 2 times 2 times 2. Well, I know 2 times 2 is 4, so 4 times 2 is 8. So now I'm going to bring everything else down. I have my division sign. I have my 56. I have my subtraction. I have my 2, I have my times, and I have my 3. You don't necessarily always have to draw the arrows like I'm doing, but I just wanted to show you how I bring everything down. So I'm going to mark this out, okay? My last two, my next two things are either multiply or divide, right? So I see division here and multiplication here. So whatever comes first on the left, in this case, it is division. So let's do 56 divided by 8. Okay, 56 divided by 8. So we all know our multiplication, and even if you don't, then we can put it into our calculator, because I do that often, but that would give us a 7. Or use your multiplication chart. Okay, so I still have a subtract 2. I still have a times 3. All right, so I did my multiplication. Next, is there division? No, I don't. I'm sorry. I did not do multiplication. I did division next. Okay. Next, we look for multiplication, which, yes, I see multiplication right here. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. 2 times 3 is 6. So I can check off multiplication. All right, let's bring everything else down. I have a 7 and I have a minus sign. Well, my last two steps are adding and subtracting, and I don't have adding, so I can cross that out. And I can say I'm going to do subtracting. So 7 minus 6 is 1. Okay, I want you to process. I want you to think on this. I don't want you just to say, I don't get it, and move on. Okay, for every one of your practice problems that you're going to do, I expect that you're using PEMDAS. I expect that you're writing it down. So when you do your practice, make sure you're writing everything down in an organized manner.